Swinburne University of Technology.
Thank you all for coming today. My name is Lyndon Clark. I'm from Learning Transformations. And the reason why I'm introducing this deep dive is because we've got someone here from one of the Learning Futures seed projects, which we funded last year. So last year, Learning Transformations ran 2 grant rounds to support small learning and teaching investigations into a variety of different areas. There was technologies, there was also social media. And Dr. Hussein Dia put in an application to investigate how LinkedIn could be used to facilitate collaborative student learning in a social media platform, and look at how they could communicate between the students, but also engage with industry professionals as well. Now, Hussein's project started in semester 1 technically, began piloting that project, and at the moment they're in evaluation phase. They'll be wrapping up the project later this year, but we thought now's a great time to get Hussein along to provide some input into his project. We'll be having questions at the end, so feel free to ask anything you might be interested in knowing at the end. And when you do so, for the purposes of the recording today, I'll ask you to use a loud, booming voice so we can capture that as well. Thanks very much. Welcome, Hussein.
Thank you very much. I have 2 other collaborators with me on this project. Dr. Raya Hassan from Hawthorne. She's unfortunately not available today. And another colleague from the Sarawak campus as well. So as Lyndon mentioned, this is still an ongoing project. But what I thought I'd share with you today is a little bit of background for why the project came along, the aims and objectives, what we have done last semester, and also I'll be sharing with you the data that we have collected so far and some of the observations we have made. So there's been quite a large number of studies which looked at how social media can be used in higher education, and I think the main emphasis is that it is not only a tool for just the transfer of knowledge, but also to engage with students and to also help students develop higher skills of learning. There have been a few studies where it was suggested that the benefits to introvert students and also students from different cultural backgrounds could be more using the social media technologies. And I think we were in a unique position because we have the campus in Sarawak, so we engaged the transport lecturer there to actually help us recruit the students for her topic or for her unit into this pilot. Other parts or other studies have also shown that while social media is becoming an essential part of our daily lives, students' daily life, everyone is connected, smartphones, etc., students don't see a connect between their institutional learning and their time online. So in this project, we're trying to see it or to bridge that gap and see if we can actually link the 2 together. Now, Pearson Learning have been doing social media surveys since 2009. The latest, usually they release the results in October, so the only one I could find was the 2013. But it has a US focus, but it helps to bring out how social media is being used. They took the academic staff perspective. In our pilot, we're looking actually at the student perspective. But it would be interesting to go very quickly through some of the findings. So as you can see here, usually staff are using it for individual assignments, whether it is Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook. There is an increase between 2012 and 2013. Most staff are saying, or 79% are saying, that actually it has improved or increased their communication with students. Hopefully that translated into engagement as well. And again, the percentage of different people using different platforms of social media for their work or their projects. There were some concerns, and as you can see, apparently some staff are asking students to submit assignments. So submission of assignments and integrity of student submissions is an issue. Privacy, inability to measure effectiveness, that's true as well. lack of integration with traditional LMS, and also that it takes some time. It took around maybe 3 to 4 hours of my time per week, as you will see, just to invite people to actually write the posts, follow it up, and then engage with the students as well. While 59% of staff who responded said that they thought it helps improve learning outcomes in higher education, 56% thought that it might be a distraction, people playing games and things on it. So different points of view being expressed. Interesting to look at some of the faculty feedback in terms of comments as well. Some were very supportive. Like the first one here, we need to catch up to the 21st century. Others thought that we need to do it because it's helpful for students. And others did not know how it will work, but they thought that basically this is the way forward. Not everyone was supportive. Some people strongly disagreed with the idea that we should encourage students to use social media. Others are saying, let's learn from the business community. It has no value, which I actually tend to disagree with that. And others have said, we maybe would like to do it, but we need a lot of support from our institution, etc. However, some of the major findings is that definitely there is a potential for it to be introduced in higher learning or higher education. And as was mentioned before, it's not only about putting information, but it's also about inviting conversation and exchange of information with students. And also, some of the findings as well is that a lot of people thought that it is a step ahead of the traditional or first generation e-learning tools because it makes the social interaction possible. So for this project, and as Lyndon mentioned, we wanted to focus on LinkedIn, and I'll explain why we chose LinkedIn later, and to see if it can contribute to high quality learning in higher education. And essentially our study was social media attitudes and usage to examine how LinkedIn in particular can be used. Now we focused, I'm from the School of Engineering, so we focused on a particular subject, which is the sustainable transport. And we looked again, we took the student perspective. We wanted to see what students thought of LinkedIn and its potential to be introduced. The objective again was to build on existing body of literature and try to make recommendations as to whether we can implement this or how it can be implemented in other engineering courses or other disciplines as well. We also had a few research questions which we thought we would like to have answered. So how does LinkedIn help students in their learning? Is it mainly around getting more technical knowledge into their coursework? Or is it better understanding of what's happening globally? Does it improve their competency in problem solving because they are introduced to different ways of doing things and approaching problems differently? And also, has it improved their skills in multidisciplinary and intercultural collaboration as well? And then we wanted to look at, because we were in this unique situation where we have the Sarawak students and Swinburne, whether there were differences between the perceived benefits between undergraduate and postgraduate students or between Hawthorne and Sarawak. So as you can see there, as you saw in the survey as well, there are a number of platforms for social media. The reason we chose LinkedIn is because it's mainly used for professional social networking. A lot of people in the industry and in academia who are looking to build influence in their area of expertise are actually on LinkedIn, because that can measure into more clout into what they say, and you will find they invite followers and so forth. So it also allows these individuals to write long-form posts from within LinkedIn. So you don't have to publish it somewhere else on WordPress and then bring it in. It immediately provides the tools for people to publish long-form posts. And it's free. There are no ongoing license or maintenance fees, which makes it scalable if we want to implement it in other units of study as well. So as you can see, a quick comparison. I mean, certainly it's the number of users is not as much as Facebook, but again, because it's professional, it's a little bit more than Twitter. So, 64 million compared to 88 million. But as you can see, 1.4 billion users on Facebook, which is quite large. 7 million users in Australia. So the method we implemented, or the methodology, basically it was in 2 stages. And as Lyndon mentioned, we have completed stage 1, which is the student participation and engagement. So we had 3 courses, or students from 3 courses joining the group or involved in this pilot. I run a postgraduate and undergraduate elective, transport planning and modeling and economics. We had 53 students, and 50 of those chose to join the group. Dr. Raya runs an undergraduate unit, which is transport engineering. Out of the 138, about 112 joined. And Elizabeth in Sarawak runs the second year, so 75 out of 96 students joined. And also, we run this final year research project, so those students who were doing it in transport were also invited to join, and in addition to some masters and PhD students. And the second stage, we're currently doing a survey with the students and evaluating. So we said we will not touch the results until after the release of the exams and grades, marks and grades. So in stage 1, what did we do? Well, we went through a research ethics approval, because we're engaging or proposing to run the survey with students. I invited some national and international domain experts to write posts on sustainable transport. They come from different areas of sustainable transport, so it was good to find a combination. Set up a LinkedIn group. Very easy to do that on LinkedIn, and quite a simple approach. And then we asked students to review the consent information sheet and set up their LinkedIn account or profile. Many students already had them, and it was actually interesting to see how in the beginning most of them did not, for example, had photos and professional titles, and towards the end they all had very good photos, and instead of saying I work in retail, it's like a graduate student engineer, or so it just make them step into a little bit more professionally. And then we asked them to send a request to join the LinkedIn group. As I said, not all of them accepted the invitation. The majority did. We repeatedly asked and invited again and again, and some people just were not interested, just like others who actually don't show up to classes as well. Before they send the request to join the group, they had to comply with the online etiquette. And most of them were very, very professional in their approach on LinkedIn. And we said that you're going to be evaluated 5% on 2 online tests based on the articles and the discussions that are going to take place. So again, we had a total 242 students, and each week the expert or the specialist would post an article about sustainable transport, and the students would have a week to actually read, respond, comment, follow up with other articles, and so forth. And just to encourage students, we offered 5 online motivational badges to students who contribute the most to the discussions. And these were offered on Blackboard. So they were only just for the duration of the semester. OK, so a little bit about sustainable transport. Essentially, what we're talking about is really 3 policy principles. Is to avoid the need for travel. If we want to have a sustainable transport system, first of all, avoid the need for travel. Second, what we call avoid, shift, improve. Shift from energy intensive to less energy intensive modes, for example, from combustion engine to electric vehicles. Or the other one is improve we have this system already, how do we make it better? So we invited, initially I invited 10 specialists, 5 national and 5 international. One of the national ones here got sick, so he couldn't keep the deadline. So we ended up having 9 in total, and it was somewhere in academia, others were from industry. So we started with probably, Professor Taylor is probably recognized as the top sustainability engineer, if you like, in Australia. So we started with one of his topics. So he talked about avoiding the need for travel, where you do integrated land use and transport planning. In week 3, we had someone from the American University of Sharjah. He's a specialist in investigating the impacts of public health on transport. Week 4, someone from Singapore. And this particular topic engaged students I'll show you examples in a very good way, because he was talking about how we make our cities smarter and more sustainable. And he provided examples from Singapore. Singapore, Japan, and South Korea are probably the best countries in terms of sustainable transport. Rachel Smith from ACOM, she's recognized as a specialist in active transport, so walking, cycling. She recently published a book, so she shared some of the information from the book. And at the end of her week, basically, she offered a free copy of the book to all students who were enrolled on the group. Professor Graham Curry is a professor of public transport from Monash University. And this title might seem quite simple, should public transport tickets be free? But it generated really a very good discussion, because there are people who are for free public transport tickets and others who are totally against it. Not many people knew, for example, that IBM is involved in the transport sector and in the transport industry. So we had someone from there who's very active talking to our students. This is from the US. Professor Phil Charles has worked for a long time in the government, so to actually doing sustainable transport. Another colleague from Greece, she talked about sustainable mobility. It's interesting, actually, we're moving away from saying transport to saying mobility, because it's not about the movement of vehicles. It's actually about making people mobile, so movement of people. So she used gamifications and other strategies, so that generated some good interest. And finally, Pedro was actually a previous mayor of the city of Madrid in Brazil. He's currently with the World Bank, but he has heaps of experience in the developing countries, and he was able to share some of this with the students as well. All right, so this is the data we have collected so far. These are based on the LinkedIn analytics. So basically the number of views for each article. Now, we had only 242 students, if you like. So how come we got so many large numbers of views? What happens is, I'm still investigating this with LinkedIn. They say that these are unique views. So if you are on LinkedIn and you see the article, if you see it 10 times, that only counts as 1 view. But what happens as well, because these people, the specialists, published the articles on LinkedIn, all their connections would get a flag saying that Professor Taylor published an article. So a lot of people would actually, although they're not engaged or on the group, because the group was closed to Swinburne, a lot of people actually external to the group could read the article. But the second 2 columns are what happened within the group. So the number of likes, how many people liked an article and how many people commented. And then if you, the last 2 columns is if you look on the expert profile where he or she shared the article, you would see how many other people have commented. We'll still go through this because a lot of students would actually comment outside the group, which was fine. I usually ask them to go back and comment if they could on the group. But we'll be able to refine this over the next couple of months as we look into it into a little bit more detail. We also are undertaking some sort of a qualitative assessment. So the quality of interactions. Clearly, someone who just likes, the quality of interaction is different to someone who wrote like 3 paragraphs of text, as you will see. Do students follow up with the relevant comments and questions? Do they relate it to topics in Melbourne, to local issues in Melbourne and Sarawak, for example? Have they seen any good examples of good practices? A lot of the students actually work with local councils, so they were able to share insights about what the councils are doing in terms of sustainability. So this is an example of a person who received a motivational badge in one of the weeks, and we were talking about the Singapore experiment, and she really got active, and she, as you can see, we have a prime minister who refuses to accept global warming, and then she says all of them, their heart is in the right place. They want Australia to be even better than Singapore, so why aren't we doing this? And like this student as well was able to relate it to the East-West link, which was a big issue in Melbourne as well, as to why we are funding, for example, road projects and not funding public transport projects. So a lot of the students who actually engaged with the material were able to relate it to some of the issues they experienced as well, which was good. Okay, some observations that we have seen. I think content is king, as they say in social media. So students were most engaged with the articles that were either controversial, like the one about public transport, or the one which was inspirational, like the article from Singapore. And we noticed that it was the same group of maybe 20, 25 students who were every week the most engaged with the material. Now, students from the Sarawak campus were least engaged, although they did a lot of liking. But we asked Elizabeth to investigate a little bit more with them. First of all, they're second-year civil engineering students. So second year, they're still young in their university life, if you like, and they're mostly concentrating on design issues and things. They haven't really progressed to the sustainability issues yet. The feedback that she got, they said they felt it was not related to the content they were studying, because they were studying road engineering. They were designing roads, and sustainability in terms of recycled material, etc., comes into it, but not to the extent that we were proposing here. Some of these topics we proposed were quite general and easy to grasp, but still some students felt that they're not related to the content. So this is it. We had 3 different unit outlines. Mine was in modeling and planning. Raya was in transport engineering and traffic engineering. So I think maybe going forward, maybe it should be constrained to the single topic or the single unit of discussion, because that would engage the students more, because it's related to what they're studying. The last 4 weeks, the engagement went down a steep hill. I asked students, and they said we have a lot of submissions and assignments, but I also felt that maybe it reached a saturation stage, because every week it was the same, and engage with the articles, etc. So maybe going forward it could be an article every second week, or maybe 5 articles in total, and so forth. We will wait to see what their feedback is on the surveys, but that was an initial impression. As I mentioned before, some people who are not on the group commented on the profile of the experts. So students were able to see these, and it also gave them another perspective, because some of them engaged with that material as well. Some of the written comments during the semester, students liked what we're doing, and even one of the invited experts who did not actually experiment with social media a lot found that by putting himself up there and writing posts actually allowed him to gain more followers and more interactions with people from all over. So that was an added benefit, if you like. So stage 2, which is currently undergoing, we're looking at a survey on SurveyMonkey. So this is an optional and anonymous survey, so we're not expecting 100% of the people to actually participate, but we're encouraging that. Only generic information will be collected, as you will see. And we said that all the responses will be analyzed after their marks will have been released. So basically, at the beginning of the survey, they have to consent to undertake the survey. We asked a few questions about themselves, about the students. Few questions whether they had used LinkedIn previously. And then for each of the topics that we have provided, we asked them to rate if they have perceived that they have learned, on a scale of 1 to 10, whether it added to their learning in sustainable practices, how, on average, how much time did they spend. I've looked at some of the surveys, and there are a lot of people who actually said they spend more than 2 hours a week on the group, which was good, I think. And then your perception of how the project enhanced your learning in terms of, for example, written skills, communication skills, critical thinking, problem solving, and collaboration with other students. So we'll give them a few more weeks to complete these surveys. Yeah, so in the end, a little bit of long form answers if they had other feedback. So we'll give them a few more weeks, and then we'll start to analyze the data as well. In terms of what we have presented so far, we developed a poster for the 7th Wave conference, which was held here last year. Presented this at a departmental meeting in civil engineering. We have a Twitter handle as well that was quite active during the semester. A recent abstract has been accepted to ISOTL, and looking at future technical seminars like this one or in other areas, and newsletters, blog posts, etc. So finally, some of the next steps, as I said, to undertake the evaluation and analyze the results. Project completion, 31st of October, 1 month later, we'll have the final report. And we're already starting to explore how we maybe look at some external funding opportunities, either OLT or to look at, like Engineers Australia or Institute of Transport Engineers. These are professional organizations who are very interested in continuing professional development for their members. So LinkedIn can actually work quite well in that aspect. In terms of my perspective on this, I think I will continue to use it in my unit, and I will encourage Raya to do the same. But and Elizabeth, but I think it should be maybe more tailored to the particular unit so that the articles are directly related to the content, rather than having it a little bit more general. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Hussein. Really interesting to hear. Okay, questions in a loud voice, if I could remind you as well.
I've got a few questions. That was really interesting, because I've actually tried this with Facebook. But I did a unit on social media and organizations. So Facebook was used as a tool for the students to interact with me. So not as complex as LinkedIn, because LinkedIn allowed others to come in and comment, which has been wonderful. The students, again, found it a bit tedious that every week they had an activity to do, which was read a paper and then comment on it. And people within the group, students within the group would have to re-comment or say something about it. So they found that a bit tedious. The initial thing, you said that they were given an opportunity, and you had 5% on these 2 tests that they had to do. What would happen to the students who didn't do it?
And we've looked at, in terms of submissions and assessment, we looked at what they provided because the multiple choice questions were done on Blackboard. And I think 95% of the students answered, okay, so either they got the article from somewhere else and looked at it, or they had some collaboration with another student. We're not sure, but so the majority joined, but not all of them. So I talked to Lou at the beginning, and we said, is it, if they don't do, because do we give them another item of assessment? And I think it was satisfactory to keep it at the 5%. If they do it, they get it. If they don't, yeah. But most of them ended up doing, okay, something on answering the MCQ questions. How they got the article, I'm not sure.
Excellent, thank you.
That's all right.
I just had a question about the external commenters on the articles. Were they aware that each article was actually being used for a study at university?
Yes. Yes, I'll show you actually very quickly at the top. Let me see if it's working here. So discussions. So clearly, if they are external people, they're not going to see what's happening here because this is only for the Swinburne students and the. So for example, this one, this is the LinkedIn profile, or this is the article itself where it's published on LinkedIn. And the first thing at the top of the screen is this article is the 5th in a series of articles developed for Swinburne University, learning transformation, etc. So they were aware. And if you look there at the bottom, at the end of the article, always we ask, we invited people to comment. And as you can see, so this is actually one of our students. I just asked them then again to comment. So, but for example, this person is external to the group, external to the group. A lot of people are external, but they are aware that it is actually a Swinburne initiative.
You said that the Sarawak students had issues because they were studying road instead of transport. Had you done it for transport engineering? Do you think them being in Sarawak were very road-based and it's dangerous to walk or ride bikes? Would it play an impact on it?
Possibly, yeah. And that's why now with some of the free comments or long-form comments, and Elizabeth, we're keen to understand why they were not engaged. There could be cultural issues as well.
That's what I would put down.
Yeah.
Because ours, the one that we ran, we found that whenever students wouldn't comment as much if they were international students.
No.
The others really got into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I noticed they did a lot of likes. So, I have a feeling that a lot of people actually read the articles, but there is a silent majority who are either not confident. I felt actually second-year students compared. Most of the comments I saw were from year 4 students, postgraduate students, and year 5. Those are the civil business degree students. So maybe that the level of maturity as well maybe played a role in the comments.
Just again, you said you had basically the same. You said you found that quite often it was a similar group of about 20 people who commented a lot. Were they also the same people who were continually picking up the 5 badges every week?
Yes, yes. And what I did is every week when I gave someone a badge, I provided some feedback as to why they got the badge. Like that person where you saw the comments about politics and things. So it wasn't just a standard saying thank you and here's. So I just provided some feedback. The only thing on the LinkedIn group, I said congratulations to the 5 students, but I couldn't name. I wasn't sure of the privacy. I couldn't say the award was given to A, B, and C. I just said congratulations to the 5 students, just trying to encourage others as well to see it. So what happens is when those students open their unit outline on Blackboard, they would see that they got the badge.
Another question is, what would you do for the lectures and things like that?
Okay, so we had weekly lectures, and for my subject, the first 2 weeks, I was talking about sustainable transport. So we had about 6 hours, introduced students to that, and I think maybe that added to why a lot of the postgraduate students interacted. With Raya's top transport engineering and the one in Sarawak, students did not have those. We gave them the lecture notes, but they did not have official hours, if you like, in their curriculum to look at those. And again, I think this is another reason why I think it will work better if it's directly related to the content taught every week.
Hussein, one of the things I love about this, it's not in your objectives, but looking at that potential for employability and the connections that might be formed between the students and the professionals, and potentially even then other professionals that that individual is linked with. Will you be looking at all at what connections might have been made between students and industry bodies?
Yes, and actually most of the authors have said that we welcome all students to connect with us. And it was very easy for them because I asked all students to use their Swinburne account. So if someone received an invitation from a Swin account, they knew that it was a student. How much of that happened, we can look into it as well. But as I said, I felt that students, just by looking at their profiles, and they made it towards the end of the semester, it really looked much more professional than it started with.
That's a good start.
Hussein, how much do you think that the fact that it was going out into the wider networks and those wider networks were commenting might have perhaps made it a little bit more daunting
yeah.
for the student to comment?
Yeah.
I've had an experience of that myself where, as part of a study we had a discussion board which was just internal, and some of the students were just amazing. They seemed to know all this just amazing stuff, and that was quite daunting in itself. So then if you take it to a wider audience, it could be more daunting.
Yep.
Again, particularly when they're like leaders in their field.
Yes. So what we did is, this here, for example, after the end of the article, what you see here is what the public see, and the other people have provided feedback. But if you look at where we asked students to actually comment was on the group itself. And on the group, there were only the students.
So no one could see their...
No could see their, yes. Only their,
they had to choose always to respond to someone external.
Some of them chose to respond externally. Maybe they felt confident doing that. But the majority of students actually commented. So I'll show you an example here. So here is one of our students, comment here, a response, another comment and response, another comment, response, and so forth. And actually, some of the students, if they did not receive a response within like 48 hours, they would write to me and say, they haven't replied to my to my comment. So I would chase after a comment as well. They got into the habit that I post something and I'm entitled to a response, which was actually what we said to the authors, is that during that week, because they were paid to do this, so we said for the duration of that week, we would like it to be available to respond to students.
Thank you, I've got a question. Just wondering, how much moderation did you have to do in terms of going through all the posts and then keeping or just monitoring what people were saying and those type of things?
Yeah. As I think I spent like 3 to 4 hours a week, but that was not only for moderation. Some of the authors were not familiar with how to develop a long form post. It's very easy, but I had to give instructions and guide them. I acted like an editor as well, because I wanted the posts to relate to each other. So if someone was talking about cycling in week 10, I made sure that I went back and said, can you make a reference to Rachel Smith from ACOM for her post, because she was talking about. So I tried to link the material together. And then what I did is, if someone wanted to post an article or create a new discussion, I actually asked LinkedIn to allow me to moderate that. So it went into a queue, and it wouldn't release it to LinkedIn until I looked at it. But if someone wanted just to provide a comment, that was direct. Because what some people did is, towards the beginning, I think, is instead of, I'm going to show it now, instead of commenting on the article, they actually posted a new article to comment on the previous. So I said, if we can keep the comments within the one article. So I just moderated new posts or articles, but the rest of the discussions, and I think most of them conducted, well, actually all of them conducted themselves very, very professionally. I think maybe, as Lyndon mentioned, because when we presented this to them, we said this is an opportunity for you to actually display your expertise and your skills to others. It could help you with your employment. So I think all of them were very professional. There were no awkward or inappropriate comments at any stage. But yeah, I think it took 3 to 4 hours. So yeah, maybe if it is only for one topic and reduce the number of posts to maybe 4 or 5, can be a little bit more manageable. But a lot of the verbal feedback is that they found it interesting. It's something different they haven't tried before.
Sorry, last question. What was the percentage of assessment based on this?
5%.
Oh, in total.
In total.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the rest of the material, they had ongoing assignments, which were done on Blackboard, and projects, group projects, final exam, etc. This one is only 5%. Really just to give them an incentive to join. And as I said, not everyone did.
And how are your personal networks on LinkedIn going these days?
Yeah,
as a
good.
result of this project?
Yeah, no, it's good. 1,300 followers, so it's not bad. Yeah.
Any other questions for you?
We'll be linking with you at the end.
All right. Okay. Yeah, please do. Yeah. Pleasure. Thank you.
This has been a Swinburne production.